Hello fellow AGDxers, welcome to another video, and today we are going to be talking about menu screens and panels that we can have at the bottom of the screen. I'm going to show you a couple of tricks that you can use that will enable you to make these panels a lot more easily. Now in the past I've seen people, including myself, use put block and also messages to display things on the front screen, the presentation introduction, and also to create a panel that shows the score and the number of lives and those kind of things. And those methods are fine, but they do often involve using up more memory than might otherwise be necessary, and they certainly take quite a bit of scripting if you want to put a lot of blocks on screen. Okay, so let's take a look at what I've done here first of all, and then I will show you how to do it. So the model I'm using here is from another Andy Johns game, Monty and the Temple of Lost Souls. Now this is not an official panel that I'm going to show you here. This is just something I've done myself, just for a bit of fun. And as you can see, I've got this kind of head here with the title, and I've put a frame around it. So in previous videos I've shown you how to create these, and then I've shown you kind of put block methods that can be used to display them. Now one of the disadvantages of that is that you have to assign individual blocks to every block in the grid, rather than using, say, groups of blocks to make a design. This design actually uses only 36 individual blocks. As you can see, there's a fair bit of repetition here and here, and of course down here in various places to save memory. And obviously I could do an elaborate put block system that put that into place, but then the script would get quite long as well. So the advantage of the method I'm using here is that I don't need to use any script, almost none, and at the same time I don't have to have the same block in more than one space. So I only need 36 blocks to create this, and that's a big advantage. So if we go into the game now, the other thing that I'll show you, so here we go. As you can see here, we've got a control panel, well, let's say a user interface down here at the bottom that tells the player what score, and you could put something else here like the items that are collected, an inventory, anything you want really, of course. And again, something like this, normally you have to design it, use put blocks, run testing quite a lot of times, go back, look at it again, do it again, repeat until you finally get it right. So there's a lot of messing about in terms of implementing it, and additionally it usually takes quite a lot of scripting. So let's take a look at what we've done here then that is actually a lot easier. So if I go to screens now, you'll see that's the demo screen that I've set up, and if you look here you'll see that I've actually created a screen here which is for my front screen just here. Now you'll notice that what I haven't done is put some lines along the side here, and I'll explain that in just a moment. But what we're doing here is we're basically designing the front of our game, and this is then going to be stored as a screen, and it will be also compressed using the AGD screen compression routine, which means it will also take up less memory. So because I've got a lot of blank space over here, that's going to basically reduce the amount of memory that's being used. And if you press Q in AGDx, you will get this figure up here, and that tells you the number of bytes that this screen is using. And as you can see, it's 100 bytes, which is fairly minimal really, not a huge impact when you consider the actual size of the image that we've got here. So you press any key to go back, and that's the reason why we have these blank spaces here, because if I were to introduce a column along here, it would dramatically increase the amount of memory that's used. And I can basically demonstrate that for you. Let's just see if I can skip through, and so let's just put a block here, like so. So if I was to put this onto here like this, what I'm doing is I'm breaking up these black areas here into smaller chunks, and that's going to affect the rate of compression quite dramatically. If you look, you'll now see that it's now at 176 bytes. So it's quite a significant change to the previous example. So I've wiped that away. So how do we get that to run on the actual player screen? Well, it's actually very straightforward. I'm going to show you now what you do. Go to the intro menu here, and what you can see here is that I've set the color and cleared the screen, and I've set screen 2. Now that's going to be the screen that I'm using for the introduction screen. And then I just put in the command redraw, and this will basically draw that screen. I then, following that, I go back to here, and in this section I'm basically going to be using a standard routine that I've used before, which is repeating and printing block 8, and those are the columns on the left and right hand side, and that's a very small script because it's just pure repetition, and that's why that part is better if you do it in the script rather than on the actual screen itself, because that small amount of script there is only going to take up probably 30 or 40 bytes maximum, as opposed to the sort of 80 or 90 bytes that will be added if we don't do that. So that's basically how that works. And you may have noticed here at the bottom, I'll just show you here at the bottom, I've got just a wait key. You can replace this with the control panel option, of course, and I've done a little put block there, which you may have noticed. It's just an additional effect, really, just for a bit of fun, and it causes the eyes to open briefly when you start the game, just like that. So that's how that was done. So basically, yeah, all you need to do if you want to have a front screen is to design it as you want as a screen, and then just basically add it and use redraw. And then remember, of course, that you've set the screen there, so you may need to change to the screen that you originally started with. But in the introduction menu, you don't need to do that, because once it's done the introduction, that's the very first thing it does, and then it will go to the start screen. So slightly different case when it comes to the control panel menu, and I'll show you that now. So if we go to screens, okay, you can see here what I've done is I've designed a menu here, and I know that the window that I'm going to be using is 4 blocks high, so 1, 2, 3, 4 here, and I'm drawing that right at the very bottom of the screen. And what we're going to do here is we're going to trigger a redraw of the room, but what we're going to do is set it so that the room gets drawn 4 blocks lower down than it normally would. And to do that, we're going to make an assembly call, and I'll show you how we do that here. So if we go down here now to, I'm going to use game initialization. You could put it in restart screen as well, but normally you're only going to need to print this once. And so what I'm doing here is very, very straightforward. We go, first of all, we store the current screen in rand as a temporary variable, then we set the screen to the one we want, and then we set the line to 4. Now you need to do this command here, let line 4, exactly before this call. What this is doing essentially is putting A into the accumulator, and then it's starting the room draw routine just one step ahead of where it would normally be, and that basically allows you to set the top window offset, and you can push it down, in this case by 4. Now remember, if you do this, don't push it down off the actual screen, because if you do, it will cause a crash. So as I said, if you look back here, you'll see the window, and I've got a gap of 4 down here, so I know that I can push this window down by 4. I've got the room to play with there by 4. If you want to have a bigger panel, then you can change your window size here, whatever it might be, but don't set it any more than that, because then it'll try to draw off the screen and for certain that will cause a crash. So yeah, basically that's all we need to do there. So as I said, just make a note of the numbers in here. You'll see 205.80.136. Okay, so just to show you that that works, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into here, and let's just see if this works. 205.80.136, and let's put line 4 into here. We need to let screen 1 here, and then we need to put screen 2 here. Okay, so basically then what we're doing, we're setting the screen to 1, and then we are setting the offset to 4. We're going to draw that panel, then we're going to go to the picture with the Egyptian head on it, and then it's going to redraw the screen, and hopefully that should work. Let's see what happens. Right, there you go. So if you want to have your sort of menu there on the launch screen, then by all means you can do it, and if you do, then you wouldn't need to have it in the start game section, although that would depend really on whether it clears the screen, which I've actually set it to do that, so you probably would need to. But if you do want it there, there you go, you can see how it works, and that's it. Okay, so it's very straightforward. Just to review once more, if you want to have a screen of your own design, and if you create this in, say for example, ZX Paintbrush, I've got a video about that, so go back through my old videos, you can find it, perhaps I'll put the link in there. You can create your own front panel like that, and then you can add text and do all of that stuff, and all you have to do is just set the screen number and do a redraw, and there it will be. And then if you want to add a few extra things like columns on the side, you can do some of that still with put block. You can combine all of the different methods. You can combine using put block with this method with some text, and just work out the balance between how it looks and how much memory you want to use. Of course, if you're short of memory, then that's this is going to be quite a useful approach for you to try. Alright, and then the second thing, of course, as we go back here, draw a panel like this, and set it at the bottom, and then use that simple assembly call to make it draw that screen just 4 blocks down, and do that in the game start or the load screen initialization, and then set the screen back, and everything should work just fine. Alright, good. Well, I hope to see that technique in use soon, and in the meantime, as always, keep enjoying AGD and happy coding. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.